general features across the board of Stratum. So we'll talk a little bit about some features that are available within Planner and also within Viewer as well. So, and basically just some features that we just want to highlight today in terms of some interesting features that you should be using that we feel that would certainly help your experience, your overall experience with Stratum. So, like I said, we'll be talking a little bit about what some of these features are in the Planner interface. I know that maybe some of you are still using Planner, but we'll concentrate mostly on Viewer and some of the things that you should be using in Viewer, and then we'll take a look at some of those things in a demo. But for Planner, so we're talking about some of the later, basically the current release of Planner, which is version 6. There's a lot of presentation features that were, or reporting features that were actually built into the Planner interface to give the user more control over output formats. They can actually print out more professional-looking reports directly from the Planner interface. It also supported the PDF file format as well. So that was added in, and this feature is available obviously both within the template or a view. And again, many of these were based on results of requests from our customers and what they thought that we should be doing, and some of the features that they thought would be good to have. So, and this was one of them where we were able to go ahead and supply more of a professional-looking reporting capability out of the Planner interface, where you can see it has now a page header, a report header, and then obviously the report itself. Much better looking than it was before. You can go through some scaling options. There's all kinds of options available to you for formatting the report. You can do margins as well. You can play around with the margins to increase or decrease the margins to overcome any oddities or differences for the printer that you might be using. So a lot of control is built into the Planner interface for this particular piece in terms of printing this stuff out. The page header and footers, each section can contain multiple rows of text, so you have a lot of flexibility in terms of formatting. The font settings apply to all the contents within that section, so you can have your own font. You can overlap and overwrite, so left goes down first. So there's obviously some rules here to abide to in terms of header and footer customization. You can put an image in there. Looks like you can only have an image, then nothing else, and only one image per section. You can mix and match functions and text as much as you like. So obviously if you do have an image in a particular section, then that's the only thing you can add in there. We can see that there's a new button within the Planner interface that provides access to the report formatter. So just by clicking on that button, it opens up the report formatter, where then again you can gain access to all these different features that are available within the Planner interface for the new reporting features. There's the different tabs for the page margins, the header and the footer, and then the report header itself. Another common, or not so common, ability of Planner is this concept of export groups. So you can actually, once you have some of these saved away in your views, you can actually generate these within groups, and you can run these in batch. So you can actually put these into the export groups. You'll notice that there's a new Excel report and PDF report option available to export your data to the one or two of those different types of formats. You can automate the execution of these views using defined parameters. You can push data out to users on a scheduled basis. It supports different file types such as Excel, of course, or maybe a CSV. So, again, Planner provides this ability to push data out into either reports. You can also push it out to an email. So Planner does provide that capability as well. You'll notice that we actually have an automated export group implementation that is basically available, so you can actually use Planner to push out reports. So that is available. However, Viewer certainly has a much more robust ability to do some of this, and using some of the actions and the broadcast server capabilities. And then there's the layout editor. That's part of the Planner, again, talking a little bit more on Planner with the ability, basically the layout editor just provides you with more flexible ability to format your view, essentially, what you want to hide, essentially, select which columns you want to make visible, and then certainly you can hide things much easier. So the layout editor was added in just to help you hide things and make things visible much easier within your view. As you can see here, I can hide the different types of related description headers. I could hide the header of the detail of the sales amount column. So it's up to you in terms of what you want to hide and expose. And another common thing that's available that we think that you should be using that's probably not used as much as we like is this ability to apply a template within the Planner interface. It's a powerful analytical capability to basically overlay any other type of report on top of what you already have. And all the drill downs actually stay in place, so you don't lose any of that information. So it's a pretty slick way of pivoting your analysis on a dime by applying a template within the Planner interface. So cool concept there. More on the Planner, the user list creation menu has been certainly enhanced. You can now actually copy and paste data into this menu, so you can quickly create user lists based on data from a view or from an Excel spreadsheet or wherever you might grab some of this data. And then, of course, it's validated against your data, so obviously you're not adding in anything that doesn't exist. So that's available in Planner just like it is within Viewer. Of course, you can actually do that within Viewer too. Another cool thing within Planner is this ability to control the view mode, where you might want to see data where there's non-zero data, or you might want to see some zero-related data, so you can actually see where sales is not occurring versus where you have sales. So this is a great way to do some exception reporting within Planner by toggling the view mode to the different options available. As you can see, it's on the edit menu, and you can it's called in query mode, and that's something you can change and play around with yourself. There's 4 different options. Default is non-zero only, but you can certainly change that. Master file all is pretty interesting. It actually shows up. It'll show you all of the products that are sold to a given customer, whether there's data or not. So you can actually see items that you're not selling to certain customers. And you can do that in Planner or Viewer as well. And then within Planner is this concept of complex filtering. Again, you can also filter based on multiple columns, so you can use your complex filtering to actually accomplish more sophisticated styles of filtering and incorporate more than one column within your filter. Similarly, you can do multiple sorting as well. The Planner interface does provide secondary sorting. So, there's more advanced sorting available within the Planner interface too. So that's a little bit on the Planner side, and we'll talk more about Viewer. I know that most of you probably are using Viewer. And this really kind of relates to Viewer 6X. So if you're running Viewer version 6, most, if not all, of these features would be available. You might be on a earlier version of 6, so there might be some features here that may not be available, but if you're on the latest version of Viewer, all of this stuff would be available. First thing is first, conditional formatting is available within Viewer, so you can actually, make the data jump out at you based on conditions within the data, and you can create these within the view. You can also make them global and make them available to other users as well. A pretty common one is maybe I want to see negative data in red. And that's something that is very easy to set up and make global so that users can do that very easily within their views. So the conditional formatting kind of behaves a lot like the Excel conditional formatting, where you can set that up and have it behave based on, if my data is positive, then show it in green. If it's negative, then red. You can do different, of course, you can do different shades of coloring as well. You can get more sophisticated with it. Here we can see that we've got red, green, and yellow in the mix. So you can actually set some of this up so that it behaves more like a traffic light based on your, what the conditions of the data might be. Another cool thing that Viewer provides is the ability to add images to your view. You can actually show images of your items, or maybe little thumbnail images of your items. We have some of our customers that do this and provide thumbnail images of their products. It enhances the view, of course, and it also makes the view a little bit more of a dashboard quality style view. It's a little bit more graphical. It would look good in a dashboard style environment. So images is available, and certainly you can show certain types of images within your view. Hypertexting. This is probably something that's probably more underused than anything else, but you can see that in this example we can set up a couple of columns where you could map where your customer is, or you can hypertext to Google and get information about that customer. So you can set some of these hypertext links up to pass some parameters or some descriptive data about the customer, or the customer name itself. Pass that over to the MapQuest or Google Maps or whatever it is you want to use. You can also pass it to Google and provide your customers with a very easy, simple way of getting more information about their customer. And you can build that into these views as well. So the hypertexting is available to do some of these really cool things. And then pop-up text. You can have it so you can hover over certain things. If I hover over, in this case, the image, it'll show me the item number, or I can have a customized description. I can do whatever I want. I can show the actual description of the product. That might be better there. It's probably a food item though. But this is kind of customized. But nevertheless, you can really provide more tooltips to your users by allowing them to hover over certain things and get more information about them. And you can use pop-up text to do that. Border lines, you can add grid borders to your view to make it pop a little bit more, give it a little bit more structure, and that's something you can add in pretty easily by doing a properties check on your grid folder and just turning it on or off. And those are your borders, your grid borders. You can change the presentation mode of your view to either Viewer or Excel. It's also part of the View Explorer as well. You can change your presentation mode so that when you click on the view, next time you run your view, it'll either open up in Viewer or it'll download the data directly to an Excel spreadsheet. So it's up to you what your presentation mode setting would be. Drill down views. What's this all about? And you might have seen this within your View Explorer, but you also have this capability of drilling from one view to another. It provides, again, excellent analytical pivot capability, so you can actually take your users from one view to another that might be, somewhat consistent with the analysis that they're doing. It might provide more detail. Maybe they exhaust their drill down, and now you drill them to another view that gives them even more detail, so you don't convolute the initial view with tons of detail. So drill down view, probably one of the more underused features in Viewer today. But I think one of the more powerful features that you could use, and you can really take advantage of that. And you could set up the drill down view to either trigger on your row, your column, or even on your measures. It's quite interesting with the different concepts that you can do here. So drill down view is really kind of cool how you can do some of that. And then with your time range, with Viewer, and obviously you can change, the columns here. If you wanted to change this data time range here, all I have to do is click on that column header, and it'll bring up my my menu so that I can go ahead and change the time range. So it's a real simple tip there, but simply double click on the column headers to work with them. You can now customize calculation headers and make them dynamic based on the different measures that you're involved that are involved in the calculation. Here we can see that I've got sales for 2003 and 2004, and I'm simply just doing a variance there between the two. And so I've actually made my header more dynamic by actually using the captions, the smart text from those other columns that I'm using in my calculation. So now so if I were to change, one of these columns here involved in the calculation, my header is going to change too. Maybe if I change 04 to 05, and do a quick variance between 05 and 03, if I do that, I'll notice over here that my header will change along with me. So that's good too. And again, this is something that was requested by our customer base, just something that was, more convenient, made more sense, and so that's now available as well. Other really cool things that you can do by customization is you can customize your dimension and your description headers. What I really like about this is that the ability to customize your description header, because a lot of times it's huge, it's really, really long. And so now you can actually right-click either one of these and change them to whatever it is you want them to say, which is kind of cool too. So as you can see, I've changed my customer sold to dimension and its description. Instead of it saying customer sold to, which is a bit long, and then my customer sold to long description is what it said before for my description column. So now I've changed those to be a little much shorter and succinct, so that they're not taking up all kinds of real estate and cluttering the view with unnecessary text. So customize your dimensions and your description headers in your view. That's now available too. Another great thing that's available within the view when you're running views within Viewer is the filter menu icon. You'll notice in your view all the different icons that are available within your view. You'll notice that there's one that looks like a big funnel, and that's the filtering menu. That allows you to bring up the filter menu and first of all expose all the different filters within your view so that you know what's going on within your view, and then it'll show you obviously the filters that do exist and then areas where your filters don't exist. So I can see quickly here that I've got a couple filters. I've got a filter on my customer sold to level, and then for my product, basically I have no filter. And what I like about this menu, first of all, is A, it tells you all the filters that are going on in your dimensions. And then B, it allows you to work with them. I can actually change the filters here. I can delete them. Or I can add new ones. So, it really allows me to really get a good insight as to how many filters I got going on and how they're and what's going on with them. And then obviously I can go in and either delete them or change them. So that was new, and that was something we thought would be better for users to work with their filters, because again, you might have multiple filters going on, and it gets a little unwieldy unless you can have a better place to manage these. And we thought that this was a really good idea to help you manage your filters within your views. And then another really cool thing that we did was the ability to add in your different start end dates of your weekly buckets. So if you're using weekly, this might be huge for you, because you can actually bring in the dates that week begins or ends on, and that really aids in the analysis for your users. So they don't, instead of week 1, week 2, whatever the heck that means, now they know what physically, what week they're in, and they have a calendar date that kind of tells them that. So now you can actually add in your start and your end dates for your weeks if you're using weekly data. Okay, so that's really cool too. I thought that was really an excellent thing that they added in. Okay, so those are some of the cool things that we thought that would really make your views pop. Different things that would certainly allow you to make the view better, make it more visible, make it more graphical. We can go into some of this in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to bring up Viewer here. We can kind of take a look at some of the concepts here. Here I've got a view that's using time range here. And let's see. Here we go. So this view here's the view that I use for bringing in that row there. As you can see, for each one of my weeks now, I've got a date that tells me when the week ends. So I can get a good feel for, from a calendar perspective, when these weeks start or end. Now I know it says 2008 up here, and down here it says 2004. This demo database has been screwed around with so much. Obviously, that would not happen in your environment, so it would line up to the right year, that type of thing. But this thing's kind of whacked out a little bit. So if you could kindly look past that, that'd be great. But this is really good. I mean, we've had multiple requests for this before. How do we get our weeks? We don't know physically what week we're in. It says week 5, but we still don't know what that means. So now you've got a reference for your users so they get a really good feel for what, really what week that represents. Now, how do we add that in? Well, first of all, you're using a view here that's using time as a hierarchy instead of range. So if you were building your view, normally if you build a view, it defaults to time range. Now, of course, you can build a view that uses time as a dimension. And that's what this is doing here. So, of course, you want to, this is a feature that really kind of only relates to using time as a dimension. Okay? Because if you're using time as a range, then, again, and you're using weekly, a week range, I guess you still don't have visibility to some of that. So, but using time range here, how do we add that in? Well, if you open up your View Explorer, we can see our year weeks dimension right here. So if we expand that out a little bit, it's the weeks that we want to grab that dimension for. So if we expand our weeks out, we can actually see that there is our description that we've added in for the weeks for our end date. Okay. Now if we right-click on that week node, so you have to obviously expand it out, and you can right-click on the week node. And by doing that, allows you to edit attribute relationships. So just like if you were to add in an attribute for customer or for product, well, this is adding in just another attribute for your time level for weeks. So let's go ahead and go into that menu, and we can see the menu appear, and we can now add in maybe the start date too. So now I can add in both. So I just double click that. So now I've got my end date and my start date available. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so now I've got these guys right here available. So now I can get a good feel for, let's see if I can reorder that. Oh, I could probably do that here. So let's see if I can put my start date first. Yep. So basically I just drag and drop start date above end date, and it might make more sense to show it that way. So we can get a good feel for when the start and end dates are for these weeks. Now, there's another feature here we could use to make it a little bit more cosmetically pleasing, and that would be these headers right here can be changed. Again, if I right-click and do a properties on those headers, this is new. We talked about this. We can go into the caption, and I can change that instead of using just the variable name, which shows up like this. I could just put in start date. And that makes it a little bit more, much cleaner. So I'll do that for my end date. Okay, and that's all new, right? So now I can really make this stuff look better. See how that lines up much better? Everything looks more uniform. So that works out quite nicely. And then again, I can change these column headers as well. So if I want to change my description column header, it's just a matter of right-clicking, selecting properties, and then changing the actual caption. I can have it just say description or just DESC. If I wanted to keep it generic, I can do something like that. Okay, then you can go ahead and save that. Now once you save that, that now becomes available. Obviously that saves to your view and you don't have to go in and customize that any longer. Here's that filter icon that I was talking about too. So if we open that up, we can see that really there's no filters available. So, obviously there's quite a bit of dimensions that we have within the view. And just at a glance here, I can see that there's absolutely no filtering going on. So that's good. I mean, obviously we can very quickly at a glance get a feel for, if there's any filtering at all going on in any of my dimensions. And there's not. So let's add one. So how would we do that? Well, I can maybe filter on a given customer. So I can obviously highlight and go to my customer row here. And if I click on the change filter icon there, the little filter icon, I can then go in and select my different customers. It's the same menu. In terms of searching for customers and whatnot, nothing's changed in terms of that. It's basically the same menu that you've seen that you would do with any other type of filtering option. So if I were to select Harringtons and make them available now as my filter, it then shows me what my filter is going to be. I can then go ahead and click OK. It then applies the filter. So now I've actually used my filtering, my new filter menu here to actually apply that filter and basically add the filter to the view. Now, yes, of course, I can go here and do the same thing here, filter, edit. Obviously, yes, I can do that. And that's probably quicker. But as I get more filters going on, for instance, if I now filter on the year, it might be easy for me to not get it all in terms of, all the filters that are going on. And that's what the view filter or the filtering icon supplies for you. Now, I can actually see within my filter menu, I can actually see what's going on at a glance and see that I'm truly filtering on my year and my sold to only. And then here again, if I wanted to go ahead and delete my filters, I can go ahead and do that real quick just by clicking on the X there. And if I click OK, it brings everything back. And it basically gets rid of all my filters that are available there. So that's some of the things that are available that we thought they're very convenient, cool. Some low-hanging fruit things that you can do pretty easily, and make those available. Let's see what else I wanted to. Here's the caption heading for my calculations. So here I can see that I've got a calculation, a variance between this year and last year's sales. If I were to change this to another year, I can change that to last year. I'll change the prior one to 2 years ago. Okay, so I'm actually changing those columns that my calculation are based on. Okay. So I made those changes here. Guess what? My column heading over here for my calculation has changed as well. So now that's dynamic as you change the year or even the measure for that matter. Maybe I want to do this based on units, instead of sales amount. So I'm changing my measure from sales amount to units. I update that, and now it says units instead of sales amount. So now it's dynamic. Wow, cool. So how do we do that? Well, again, right-click on that column header, properties, and if I go into my expression here, I can see that, well, that's my calculation. My caption expression, however, will have, how I put this together. Now, notice how I put this together. You have the ability to go into these two different folders which represent your measures. Okay, your two measures that within that calculation. And here you can see you've got a lot of options that you can select. I constructed mine to look cleaner by selecting the actual measure, and then I typed in a dash, and then I selected the actual year, the from year. So I did that, and I typed in a versus here, and then I did the same thing for the prior year or the current year down there. So, right, I can do something like that. Maybe if I wanted to, maybe I want this to show up first. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to bring that down. and I'll put this guy here. There we go. That's really kind of what I wanted to like. I can put my verses there. So let's evaluate that. So now 3, that looks a little bit better, so I just kind of did the inverse here. So my 3 actual sales units of O3 versus actual sales units of O2. So that looks a lot better, I think. Now if I were to, again, if I were to go back in, change these back in, this will be current year to current year. We'll update that back, and then this will be last year. Okay, so again, change that, and this indeed changes with it. So dynamic caption heading with your calculations. Okay, let's see. I wanted to show you some of the other stuff in terms of. Here we can see all kinds of different conditional formatting. There's all kinds of cool things that we can see here. Oh, and on top of that is a drill to view. So notice there's a lot of things going on in this view, actually. We've got a drill to view. I can click here to go to the open orders. So basically I'm going to a different view here. If I click on the customer sold to, it's going to take me to a rolling 3-month view of that customer. So it takes me to a completely different view, and I can see basically the different product mix for that customer that I just clicked in on. It actually transfers the customer to the next view, fills in the filter, so basically I'm focusing in on that one customer. That's the power of the drill to view. I can take the user from one view to another. Check out this view. I mean, it's vastly different. I'm not even looking at a trend. I'm actually looking at a view that has time range built into it. And so if I click in on any one of the, let's pick another one, like let's do Penn Brands here. If I click in on Penn Brands, this should be Penn Brands product mix. Okay, and we can see Fresh Farms is one of their top products in terms of the different contribution. So down here we should see Penn Brands as our filter, and indeed it is Penn Brands. And so isn't that cool? I mean, that is one of the most powerful things. I've actually taken a user from this view to this view, and they've clicked in on, well, oops, actually, let me put that back into the tab there. So I was basically able to actually go from that view to a completely different view. Let me just go ahead and close that out. Okay. Wilder Foods, if I want to check out Wilder Foods and what they look like, here's Wilder Foods. Right? And boom, there they are. So if that's not one of the coolest things, you can really, and it's probably one of the more underused things that you can do here. So a lot of things going on in this view. The formatting, notice how the different types of formatting I can do. I can do coloring, I can do icons, the pop-up text. So if I hover over any of this stuff, it tells me, what's going on. What is the rule? Why is it showing up this way? Budget achievement versus the sum. The sales and opener is 1.2. This is because this is all greater than or equal to 1.2, or 120%, basically, is what that equivalizes to. This shows us that the budget is greater than a 1, greater than equal to a 1. So if I hover over this, it actually tells me why it is that this is green, yellow, red is everything below target. So I've got all these tool tips available to me as I hover over these things. And this is all done at the measure level. So if I right-click and I check the measures here, we can see all these different features that are available at the measure level. Here's my pop-up expression. Here's my conditional format. I can go into the conditional formats, and I can see all the different types of conditional formats that are available, or I can build my own. Here I can go into custom, and I can tweak it however I see fit. Here, and notice how I can change the rules, maybe change some of these to maybe 1.4 instead of 1.2. So I can actually go in there and you know, take what I had was given to me and tweak it even further. You know, so now I've actually changed that, and certainly some of those colors did change. You know, so I can actually go in and take what was given to me, customize it to my own, and then save it as my own view. So there's a lot of really good stuff to play around with here, a lot of things to learn. Um, you know, plenty of meat here to dig your teeth into and really make these views pop. You know, so take it.